Friday on KBC Channel 1.
We want to have this conversation about the boy child, the society. Everyone can see the breakdown, and everyone can see that something ought to be done urgently, if not immediately.
Vijana na hasa wavulana hawapati nafasi ya kusikilizwa. Issue of men not opening up. Please and please look for an accountability person and ensure that you open up that which you are going through.
The battle of a man is execution. The battle of a woman is emotions.
What a wonderful morning to start your day with us right here on Good Morning Kenya. Welcome to KBC Channel 1. My name is Mike Migu. As you can see, the team is ready to take you through your morning and let you know what's happening and also engage you in some fascinating conversations. Vivian,
yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. A very good morning to you. A very good morning to Marie and every one of you who is tuned in on the show. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. We have a lot in store for you. There's actually so much that is happening across, the country, and we'll be making sure that we put you up to speed with all of that. There's the COMESA Summit that is still ongoing. Tomorrow will be the last day of the summit, so we'll be keeping you in tabs on that. There's also Senate Machinani, which will also be putting you up to speed on that as well as so many other conversations that we will be having right here on the show, among them being matters engineers, and I will be talking to Engineer Shama Kiteme, who's the president of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, and we'll be looking at the Institution of Engineers of Kenya on shaping solutions for Kenya's infrastructure and industrial future. We will be getting into that conversation at around 8 a.m. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that, so that we get to get more insight on matters, our infrastructure, and just how well our engineers are, are prepared to ensure that we have proper infrastructure in the country. Are our engineers being sidelined? We will be talking about all of that, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that conversation. Marie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm well this morning. How are you?
I'm well.
Fine, thank you.
Mike?
Niko salama kabisa.
Uko salama salmin?
No, nikikuja, it was a little bit, it seemed like the weather would be a little bit chilly, but I've checked ni kama
it
the sun is about to shine.
Yeah, it actually rained a bit and then I disappeared.
Actually, actually asubuhi nilisikia ni kama kulikuwa na kamvua kidogo, then kutoka nje it was just
it was drizzling a little bit in the morning, but remember we're also in the short rain season.
Yes.
So that's October to December, so we expect that to happen. But a very good morning from wherever you are joining us. My name is Maria Mbo, and definitely I'll be bringing you up to speed with all matters news. And just as Vivian has also already alluded to, COMESA, the third day actually, today is the third day of the COMESA, and my colleague Regina Manyara will be on standby later on in this particular program to bring us some interview with the PS for SME, Susan Mangeni. So you'll stay tuned for that. But just about now, tujapata some quote from Mike.
Yes. A quote is very important to start your day. I have one, and it's saying there's one grand lie, that we are limited. The only limits we have are the limits we believe. There is one grand lie, that we are limited. The only limits we have are the limits we believe. That is a quote by Wayne Dyer. I don't know, Marie, how you understand that quote.
I mean, it's self-explanatory. But yes, the limits we put on ourselves are the limits we have. There's no limit.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, that's how I understand it. Like, it's what you believe. If you believe you can't, then you can't. If you believe you can, then you can. And I mean, the good book says, the Bible, you know, as a man thinketh, so is he. So it's as simple as that.
Yes.
So if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can. So nobody's actually standing in your way. You're the only person standing in your way.
Actually, yes.
So if you put a limit to yourself, you're just doing it. You're the one who's just putting it on yourself. There's also another one that is almost similar, and it is one of my favorite quotes, and it is the shortest, I believe. They say, nothing is impossible.
Exactly.
Yes. Even the word itself says impossible.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I think it narrows down to mindset and belief.
Absolutely.
Because the barriers that you may think we have are not real, and it's all in your mind. So if you believe in yourself, nothing can stop you.
Yeah, and Mike, I think it's a lot more than that, by the way, because somebody might be listening to you and you're like, what are you talking about? I've tried everything, you know, or I try to think positively and nothing is happening. But it also comes down to our environments that we grew up with, our beliefs that we grew up with.
Yeah.
And the most important that I had to learn a little bit when I was older, and that is emotional dependence. You know, so it's a lot, there's a lot to it than just saying the limits are you the one putting your own limits. You need to get down, you need to actually interrogate and, you know, learn how to be emotionally independent, even if you are dependent on other people, or interdependent for that matter.
Yes.
So I would go ahead and say, if you want to learn more about that, get the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You'll be able to get yourself some knowledge in as far as, you know, no limits for anybody. As Eliud Kipchoge once said, no human is limited.
Indeed.
Yes, so thank you so much for joining us. We want to get to the news, and we start with Matters Health, where hundreds of universal health coverage medical workers took to the streets of Nairobi. That is on Tuesday, demanding immediate implementation of the presidential directive to confirm them on permanent and pensionable terms. Now, the medics, who say they have waited for 6 years, are also calling for the payment of gratuity as promised by the government. In Nairobi, UHC medics braved the morning cold to press for what they described as delayed justice. They say that for 6 years, they have worked on short-term contracts, a situation they insist undermines job security and morale in the health sector. The medics, who also staged a peaceful demonstration, accused the Ministry of Health of failing to honor both a presidential directive and a Labour Relations Court ruling that confirmed that they are employees of the national government.
And the ministry also said that effective September we are going to be permanent and pensionable, yet the payslip came back with harmonization but still on contract. We decided that we will always be here to demand for our rights.
They are also demanding the payment of their 5-year gratuity amounting to 31% of their gross salary, which they claim has been withheld despite clear court orders.
Tumeweza kuhudumu miaka mitano. Hiyo inamaanisha tumekuwa patient enough. Miaka mitano kwa kandarasi. Kandarasi ambazo ni duni zaidi. Kumaanisha tumeweza kuwa very patient enough. Na sidhani kama ni patience inaweza pita pale. Miaka mitano 6.
According to the medics, despite Parliament allocating 6.2 billion shillings earlier this year to facilitate the payment, the ministry has only harmonized salaries instead of confirming them, with some cadres like the community oral health officers earning as little as 30,000 shillings net salary.
These officers have served for 6 years. How do you then now come and give them a salary that is even less than 30,000? They have written to the Ministry of Health, and the ministry is saying that the community oral health officers do not deserve allowances. Don't they work in hospitals?
Kama mwezi huu utaisha bila kuzingatia matakwa yenye yamewekwa na president ama parliament, itatulazimu kwenda wapi? Kwenda mgomo. Na hatutaogopa, tumekuwa mgomo kwa miezi 7.
They are also calling on the Council of Governors to stop what they term as punitive short-term contracts and absorb UHC workers fully. Well, that story was prepared by my colleague, that is Joseph Wahungo. And, Mike and Vivian, strikes in the health sector have become like a norm. I think there's a report, I can't remember the name of the report some years back, that actually put Kenya among the top countries in the world that experience, a lot of industrial action in the medical sector. And that in itself is actually affecting service delivery, and sometimes you wonder, do people have to take to the streets for them to be heard?
Something that we should have addressed earlier on. And given that now we are talking about matters to do with UHC, and still we have medics who are yet to be employed on permanent and pensionable terms, they feel like they are being sidelined. I think that is something that the government needs to sit down and rethink.
Absolutely.
And see how best to address these issues.
Yes,
even at the county level where governors, the health has been devolved, but also governors have a role to play in ensuring that these medics are heard and their pleas are acted upon.
Absolutely. And it is quite unfortunate, when the healthcare workers and the county government seems to be having a scuffle on, their pay and the terms in which they are working on or with. Then who suffers, who bears all this agony and all this pain? It's the patients.
Yes.
And it is quite unfortunate because now we are losing lives simply because, the doctors are not in the hospitals. There's actually a story that I've just seen on the top page of the Standard where it says medic strikes, families mourn dead children. So there are children who have actually passed on, expectant mothers are losing their children while giving life, to these children simply because, there are no doctors there. We would say it's negligence, but it's simply because the doctors are not around to ensure that they are having safe deliveries, which is quite unfortunate. That is not something that we should be looking at this point in time. So I guess it's about time they just go sit on the table and decide on the proper way forward, because otherwise the patients are suffering. And actually, when it comes to Kiambu County, they have been on strike for more than 4 months.
No, imagine.
Continuously. Can you imagine?
Imagine the agony of the patients.
I'm just trying to imagine how things are working over there. If you have a sick person, it must be a nightmare.
And if there are court orders that have given clear orders, why don't we follow them?
But for the common person, they do not want to know the politics of what's happening behind the scenes. They only want to get services when they go to the hospitals. And just like you've mentioned, health is devolved. But what's happening also is different counties are doing their own things in as far as health is concerned. So, yes, that's a matter that is concerning, not just to Kenyans, but the government also needs to do something about it. But let's move away from that and look at something to do with education, where the Kenya Publishers Association is raising concerns over delayed payments from government, which is interfering with the smooth printing of books for grade 10. Now, the publishers are warning that the pending bills could disrupt the supply of textbooks for grade 10 learners across the country. The association says publishers are owed 11 billion shillings, a situation that, if not addressed, could stall printing distribution ahead of the next academic year. Let's get the details of that story.
It is racing against time to ensure a seamless supply of textbooks for grade 10 learners, with distribution scheduled between October and December 2025.
All these 21 publishing firms will be supplying 35 different textbooks and literary works. Out of these 35 books, 5 are compulsory. Total number of copies that we shall be supplying for grade 10, which need to be printed and distributed to all public schools by January 2026, is estimated at 7 million copies.
The association, however, says financial constraints threaten the process.
As we speak today, publishers are collectively owed approximately 11.4 billion Kenya shillings.
The pending bills dating back to 2024 stem from textbook supplies for grade 1 to 9, a debt the publishers say has interfered with book production chain.
The settlement of this amount of 11.4 billion is therefore urgent and critical to enable publishers to print and distribute books for grade 10, which is an exercise that is projected to cost yet another 2.5 billion.
According to the publishers, printing alone takes about 60 days, with distributions requiring an additional 30 days. Any delays in payment, they warn, could directly impact the delivery of textbooks to learners and consequently impact learning for grade 10. They are calling on the government to expedite the payment process of accrued debt.
Our members are ready. The books have gone through the rigorous process of vetting by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and they have been corrected. As the Kenya Publishers Association, remain confident that the government of Kenya will act promptly to avert a potential book supply crisis.
The Kenya Publishers Association says it remains in communication with the Ministry of Education through the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD, hoping that the government will address the payments in time to ensure every pupil has their learning materials when schools reopen in January 2026. Doreen Arange for Prime.
Thank you, Doreen Arange. Shock struck the Bungoma law courts after an elderly man involved in a land dispute case died within the court's precincts. The judiciary says the deceased had arrived in the court visibly unwell and was given priority to hear his case. He, however, went ahead to rest on the grass, waiting for his lawyer to arrive when a court official found him unresponsive. Police pronounced him dead moments later and moved his body to the Bungoma County Hospital morgue. His brother says he had previously suffered a heart condition.
Bungoma law courts in Bungoma County came to a standstill Tuesday morning. Residents were in shock as they watched the remains of a man who had moments earlier arrived at the court alive, like any other litigant, to seek services of the court. According to a statement released by the judiciary, the man had arrived on a motorbike at 9 a.m. The elderly man, who has since been identified as Jotham Wamkuywa, appeared visibly unwell and offered a priority card that is given to elderly persons, PWDs, and expectant mothers to access expedited services. The judiciary reveals the man who was pursuing a matter surrounding a land dispute at the Environment and Land Court then opted to rest on the grass to wait for his lawyer. Moments later, he was discovered unresponsive by a court official who had come to update him on the matter. It is then that police were called to the scene and pronounced the man dead on spot. His body was moved to Bungoma County Hospital morgue.
Sisi tulifanya kesi na mtu anaitwa Atson Wanjala Chuma, na tukamshinda kesi, tukapewa shamba na mahakama, tukakawana, kila mtu akona land title deed yake. So ile kitu ilifanya sisi tukuche leo, tulipata barua kwamba advocate changi ameandika tukuche kotini kuhusu shamba.
However, his family disclosed their kin had a history of heart problems which he had previously been treated for.
So wakati tumekuja ndio mzee amecollapse na kufa, lakini alikuwa na ugonjwa wa roho.
Give us mana.
Well, that's a case of justice delayed is justice denied. Let's look at matters education again, where in a rare departure from their norm, striking workers at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, that is JKUAT, spent their day outdoors letting their inner child free through fun and games. Led by chapter leaders of University's Academic Staff Union, WASU, and the Kenya University Staff Union, KUSU, the lecturers who have been away from lecture halls for 4 weeks took the time off from agitating for their salaries to enjoy themselves themselves through athletic races and other fun activities.
Wanasema kazi bila burudani humfanya mtu kuwa mchovu. Wafanyikazi wa chuo
We'll definitely bring you that story because it's away from the norm. Vivian and Mike, let me hold that story because we need to discuss a little bit about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about Mashujaa Day,
right.
And then we'll come back to that story. Now, Sports Cabinet Secretary, that is Salim Vuria, has assured Kenyans that new 700 million shillings Ithokwe Stadium in Kitui is 96% complete and will be ready to host this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations. Now, Vuria, who toured the facility on Tuesday alongside Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo and other senior government officials, said that the 10,000-seater stadium will be handed over next week, ready to host the event on the 20th of this month. Now, it will be the first time Kitui County is hosting a national celebration. Let's get the details of that, and then we come back to talk about it with my colleagues, Mike and Vivian.
The stadium in Kitui is now standing tall at 96% complete. The 700 million shillings facility, with a capacity of 10,000, is set to host this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations when Kenyans honor the heroes and heroines who have shaped the nation's history. Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria led a high-powered delegation, including Interior PS Raymond Omolo and other government officials, to inspect the progress.
Tulikuwa tumejadiliana tuwapatie leo, lakini tumeona bado kuna mambo mengi ya kiufundi ambayo yanaweza hatarisha wale watakuwa wanafanya mazoezi.
Mvuria, while impressed by the rapid progress, announced a short delay in handing over the stadium to the celebrations committee, pushing the date to Tuesday next week for final touches.
Kuna kazi nyingine ambayo tumepeana maagizo iweze kufanyika ndani ya wiki moja. Na kazi hiyo ni ya kuweka sengenge ya mawe ambayo itakuwa mita 885 kuzungusha ili iweze kukamilika. Tumepeana maagizo pia kwa shirika la kura, nao vile vile waweze kukamilisha kuweka lami barabara ile ambayo inafungamana na uwanja huu wa Mashujaa.
Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo hailed the partnership with Kitui County, assuring that the venue will be ready before the big day.
Tuko na uhakikisho mzuri kutoka kwa contractors na watu wote wenye wanashughulika na hii mambo ya maandalizi ya Mashujaa Day. Tuko tayari kuhost hii sherehe ikayo tarehe 20.
Kitui Governor Julius Malombe commended the national government for what he termed a transformative development, noting that this will be the first time Kitui plays host to a national event. This year's Mashujaa Day, set for October 20th, will honor Kenya's gallant heroes and also spotlight energy as a driver of economic and social development, in line with the theme of Energy Week 2025.
Ben Chumba reporting there. Mashujaa Day coming up on the 20th of this month. You know, it's a big day. Mike and Vivian, kabla hiyo siku ifike, wacha mimi niwasherehekee kama mashujaa.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and it's a big thing because I mean, it was a good move that was started, you know, with the past regime, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
That every county should be able to hold a national event, and for Kitui, it's going to be the first time ever.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a very huge thing for Kitui County, being that they've never really hosted any national event, any one of its kind, not just the Mashujaa Day, but any national event. So this must be big for the county of Kitui, and it's a really good thing, the fact that, you know, they're moving around counties. We were so used to national events happening in the capital, that is Nairobi, but I mean, other counties can also be able to host such events, and it's good because things change when they take this preparations over there, when they take these events over there, then it also does something for their economy, for the economy of that county, for that time that thing is happening, you know. We also are seeing, you know, the stadiums being renovated and things happening around. So it's a really, really good thing for the counties.
You have to admire the level of development that this Mashujaa Day event brings to every county that it's hosted. I think it was a good idea to have it rotated so that every Kenyan can feel to be a part of such a momentous day when we look into ourselves and celebrate those people who have made a positive contribution to the country.
Yeah, indeed, just like you've mentioned, Vivian, it's more than just an event. You know, the development it brings, the economic impact it has, not just for the county, but thinking at can I say, a small scale level where you have the traders, you know, people will be parking the place and all that. So it gives them a chance to earn. And for those who wish to go to, you know, celebrate it there, definitely those who run, you know, lodges and resorts and all that, that's also money for them.
And Kitui has some very nice lodges, by the way.
You've been there, yeah?
Yes.
I hope you'll be going there to celebrate Mashujaa Day. But let's go back to the story that I brought you earlier on, Vivian and Mike, and that's in a rare departure from their norm, striking workers at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, that is JKUAT, spent the day outdoors letting their inner child free through fun and games, and led by their chapter leaders of University's Academic Staff Union, that is WASU, and the Kenya University Staff Union, KUSU. The lecturers who have been away from lecture halls for 4 weeks now took time off from agitating for their salaries to enjoy themselves through athletic races and other fun activities.
They say work without play makes Jack a dull boy. Striking Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology workers heeded to this saying and put a pause to their demonstrations to engage in sporting activities. Winners in the various categories were awarded, perhaps as a way to let go life stresses and challenges of everyday life. But despite the fun and games, it was not lost to them why they had this free time on their hands. WASU Secretary General Dr. Constantine Wasonga reiterated that the government has no option but to implement their collective bargaining agreements.
This strike is going for a long time. I gave the government 3 demands. Thing 1, 2.73 billion. Thing 2, negotiate, register, implement 2017, 2020, 2025, 2029 CBA and bank the money. Before the money hits your account, the strike will continue.
Let us be respected even when we retire. Fight for your rights like you have never fought before. 2025, 2029 CBA is a CBA that's going to ensure that even the services we provide in the university are quality.
Lecturers and other staff that have been on a nationwide strike are demanding payment of 7.9 billion shillings from the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement. The dawn strike that has since been declared illegal by the courts has paralyzed learning across public universities in the country, with students forced to go home.
And the theme of this strike is tunamalizana. Semeni, tunamalizana na 7.9 billion, tunamalizana na 2025-2029 CBA.
Mike, tunamalizana. You know, and while that is going on, we'll talk about the fun part because that's away from the norm. Normally we have them on the streets, tear gas probably everywhere. But yeah, the students are home
Yeah, unajua fahari wawili wakipigana, nyasi ndio huumia. At the moment, students ndio wanaumia. And unajua and it's not, you understand how much it costs to be at that level of education, that is the university level.
Yeah.
And with the strike going on, the students at home, there's no learning, and it seems there is not lining on the horizon.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done. They need to sit down and agree on the way forward. The demands have to be listened to. I think they need to sit down and talk waelewane.
Yeah.
Because the statement ya kumalizana, unajua sasa, mkimalizana huko, the students wanaumia.
And then what happens?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
What happens to the education, bit of it, our students, just as Mike is mentioning. But that was quite new. We're not used to that. They decided, what? We're going to have some fun while at it. We're not going to go to the streets and kukula tiagas, as we say it. They decided we're going to exercise, we're going to move our bodies, we're just going to be here and have some fun. I don't know if you guys saw, there were some videos that were online of some of the teachers, including the male teachers in Deras.
Whatever it takes to be
it was quite
heard.
something. Whatever it takes for them to be heard. But as you guys have said it, we need to come to a point where they can sit down and decide. They have the collective bargaining agreement that the teachers the lecturers are talking about. They just need to sit down and come to an agreement so that our learning can continue. Learning of their students can get to continue.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed, especially for those who are in their fourth year and that maybe this was their last semester and they need to graduate. So that actually kind of, you fall back because of these kind of things.
Yes.
But I guess it's more than meets the eye, so we can talk about it in terms of what we are seeing. But yes, a lot more needs to be done to just ensure that things don't get here and the students, the students have already paid their fees.
Yeah.
So they're clean, so it's just something that maybe our leaders need to take more seriously to ensure that learning goes on and nobody is left, lagging behind because of these kind of strikes. But let's look at a story on COMESA, where Kenya is pushing for the adoption of digital trade systems across common markets for Eastern and Southern Africa, that is COMESA, as it assumes office of the chair of the regional bloc. Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki says by automating documentation, payments and logistics, COMESA would reduce trade transaction costs by at least 30%.
Our discussions will explore how digitalization can transform business practices, boost productivity, connect markets, and create opportunities for all, particularly marginalized groups, including MSMEs, women, and youth.
Intra-COMESA trade is still low at about 17% of the bloc's total commerce. This is due to factors such as bureaucracy, border crossing points, non-tariff barriers, and paper-based procedures.
While such measures may be driven by well-intentioned local policy objectives, they distort regional markets, go against the spirit of the free trade area, they disrupt supply chains, raise production costs, and discourage cross-border trade and investment.
Recognized for its pioneering work in mobile money, fintech innovation, and digital governance, Kenya is fronting digitalization of trade across the COMESA market.
To facilitate the flow of goods and services, digitalization catalyzes reduction of non-tariff barriers to trade by introducing digital solutions to trade facilitation and modernizing customs and border procedures for seamless trade within COMESA member states.
Professor Kindiki says adoption of digital payments, e-logistics, and online export certification would enable manufacturers move products faster, verify compliance instantly, and significantly lower overheads.
And because trade is now becoming more digital than physical, then the issue of ensuring that we have digital connection across the whole country and by extension also in other parts of the COMESA becomes important.
Private sector players called for the adoption of digital traceability and certification to allow agri-exports meet European Union and Gulf market standards.
This system enables businesses to obtain certificates in hours rather than days or weeks, directly enhancing competitiveness.
Bottom line is that the adoption of electronic trade facilitation has been termed a game changer in reducing trade costs by at least 20 to 30%. These are just some of the take-homes of Day 2 of the ongoing COMESA Summit that is currently underway from Nairobi. This is the Nairobi chapter at the KICC on a day that has been dubbed the Business Forum. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Thank you, Regina Manyara, for that report. And of course, Regina is still there at the KICC just to follow for us what's happening in as far as the COMESA Summit is concerned. It's the third day. Definitely tomorrow is the last day, which will be graced by President William Ruto and definitely other heads of state. And our crew from the business desk will also still be there to just bring you up to speed with what's happening in as far as the COMESA Summit is concerned. I want to believe that that's where my director wants me to put a cap on the news this morning. My name is Marie Ambo, definitely thanking my colleagues, that is Vivian Degwa and Mike Migwi for, helping me bring the news to you. So until next time, my name is Marie Ambo, and hope you can stay because Good Morning Kenya still continues, and Mike, together with the guests, are already in studio just to take you through the next, program.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we have to do it twice.
Yeye atanisaidia nini kuliko wewe? Mimi Gerikani kanambia nikutazame wewe na wewe unitazame mimi.
Mke wa mtu ni mke wa zoa. Yeye afadhali angeenda, mimi nitakupikia, nitakuwa kama huyu akaangalia mumewe.
Nitakupa na nitakununulia chochote utakacho bila kujali. Na hata usimwambie mumeo kama mimi nikununulia.
Tunakuambia utarudi urudi.
Sirudi.
Sirudi. Sasa utamwachaje babangu mgonjwa na uliambiwa wewe uende huko kamhudumie? Unataka kusaidia jamaa zangu, usaidia nani? Uwa nini, wewe una faida gani?
Sasa jumba sinema nitaenda na wewe ama nitaenda na yeye? Mimi si nimkaza mwanae.
Yaani baba akikwambia maneno hayo?
Si ni huyo hapo, muulize huyo, muulize.
Unafaa tu nisamehe. Unajua sikitaka kwa mama. Ilikuwa mazika obwe, masetani hata siku najua.
Nyamaza. Wewe kazi yako ni nini hapa?
Kazi yangu inakuwa
kwa kazi ya Estani. Wachana excuse. Simu kwa wili. Na mbona hamsaidiani Shiro? Kama ni unafanya huko?
Yaani Githaka umenisituaga. Karibu hata nisimame roho.
Kitu mnapanga mwache immediately. Why? Mimi nimesema.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mark Migu. You're watching The Viewpoint. I want us to take a look at something different. We are talking about the merits and demerits of the Senate Tobacco Bill of 2024, which seeks to regulate things to do with tobacco products, especially, and curb the use of tobacco and nicotine amongst the youth. That bill is in the Senate and it has generated a lot of views from Kenyans. And for that conversation in studio, on my far left, I'm joined by Mwaura Kabata, who is the Vice Chair, Law Society of Kenya. Karibu sana to the program. Asante. And also Dr. Michael Karaoke, who is the Secretary of Harm Reduction Society of Kenya. Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you.
Indeed. But before we get into that conversation, I want to take 2 minutes to take you through what is making headlines in our local dailies. And I will start with the Daily Nation. SHA, more pay, less benefits. This is what is captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Cancer patients suffer the pain of inadequate cover. 1 year after the launch of the Social Health Authority, which is funded by hefty statutory deductions on workers' incomes, cancer patients are demanding a better oncology package, saying the current scheme is insufficient. Many say they are forced to pay out of pocket for life-saving care, and those unable to pay have had to abandon treatment after exhausting their cover. That story is told on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Not our heroes. That is what is captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Kenya's national honors, once a badge of integrity and service, are now marred in controversy. A new shortlist of 60 nominees for state awards has triggered outrage after it emerged that several contenders, among them MPs and senators, once accused of corruption, hate speech and fraud, and even murder, are being considered for top decorations. Critics warn that the system meant to celebrate patriotism and heroism risks being reduced to reward a scheme for the politically connected. That story is told on page 4 of the Standard. And finally, at least 4 billion in compensation remains unpaid to landowners. Fresh land payout scandal hits mega Ketraco projects. That story is told on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. That is what is captured on our local dailies. And now I want us to get into our morning conversation. We are talking about regulating tobacco and nicotine products. If I may start with you, Mwaura, what is this tobacco amendment bill, and what is it seeking to achieve? What new thing is it bringing?
Thank you so much. From the onset, you'll understand that technology moves so fast.
Yes,
and innovation usually disrupts sectors or industry sectors. What happened with the previous regulation in tobacco usage in Kenya under the 2007 framework,
yes,
sort of was surpassed by technology with the introduction of new tobacco end user products, such as nicotine patches, in Kenya electronic systems of nicotine usage,
yes,
such as vapes. And even what we used to, but what used to be commonly referred to as the velo.
Yeah.
You know, the tobacco packs that you insert underneath your tongue. What the Senate bill intends to achieve, which I think, if applied properly, would be of benefit to our country, is to address the challenges that come without regulation on these new areas of tobacco usage.
Yes.
Also, additionally, to inform an infrastructure where these new systems of nicotine usage would protect a younger bracket of Kenyans who are now coming into, or rather getting into the ambit of persons who consume these products.
Yes.
So, in my own estimation, I think it's a good bill if the issues that we were raising are addressed sufficiently. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Daktari, you know, the bill now seeks to regulate these products, as Mr. Maura has put it, within the industry. We're talking about vapes and nicotine pouches. From your perspective, do you think we need such a law in the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, it's high time that we have this law. Because if you look at the tobacco regulation, all the way from 2004, when Kenya enacted the WHO's Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, and later we came in 2007 with the Tobacco Control Act. So much has changed. Technology has evolved. We have newer products, and indeed those new products need regulation. And the whole purpose of regulation is to protect consumers, and more so to protect our youth and children. So indeed we need this law.
So comparatively, this bill and the framework of 2007, the framework of 2007 did not anticipate the new products within the tobacco industry that we have now.
Yes, if you look at the history of tobacco regulation, all the way from World Health Organization, and in 2003, and Kenya adopting or enacting the laws in 2007, there was no such anticipation. And I'll give you a brief history.
Yes.
The first e-cigarette product came to be in 2003. When this Framework Convention for Tobacco Control was being enacted.
Yes.
And so much has changed. And this first product was developed in China by a Chinese pharmacist who actually wanted to quit smoking. And he came up with the product. And since then, so much has changed. And that's why we need this law to regulate these products.
Indeed. You know, the Law Society of Kenya has been very keen on this bill. Why is it so?
Typically, and straightforward as an answer will be, the law under Section 4 of the Law Society of Kenya Act anchors the Law Society as a key player in protecting members of public and offering legislative as well as legal interventions to members of the public on matters that touch on public affairs, including to advise government and courts on matters that are incidental to the law. And so part of the issue that we have raised so far is the legislative framework that needs to be adhered to in terms of this new tobacco control amendment bill in the Senate. There is nothing more to say, or rather to report home, as we keep on insisting on the fundamental facets of public participation, not only as a statutory or as a legislative tool for enactment of law, but primarily so as a constitutional requirement. That without it, then there is no legitimacy in terms of law making, in terms of regulation making, or even in terms of policy making. So if we make sense to the Senate or any other arm of government that is statutorily or constitutionally mandated to make laws, then we have to keep on insisting on the fundamental aspect under our Article 10 of the Constitution on our national values and principles of governance, including in legislative making, that the views of those who are affected by policy, by law, by regulation must be taken into account, not in terms of ticking a box and saying, I asked you. It is not what was referred to as consultation without consensus. In fact, it goes hand in hand. It is consultation with consensus. You have to consider what I am telling you. It's not a PR exercise. Nonetheless, as I finalize, we, as the Law Society of Kenya, also are a key stakeholder in what we call the tobacco industry. Under the Tobacco Control Act, the Law Society has a key stake in the board, in the tobacco board. And so we have a representative in the board who addresses our issues. And so from that framework, we get feedback on areas of overlap or areas that had a mishap in the legislative framework formulation. This is one of those moments, but there have been several others, including in the NACADA policy, including in many bills that come to the National Assembly as well as the Senate. But we implore both houses each time to always attempt to embrace these constitutional mandates.
Yes. Have you presented your views as LSK to the Senate regarding the bill?
No, we have not. What we say, the reason why we have not presented is the short time that was put in the presentation of the memoranda. Nonetheless, we were never served with this notice intentionally. From where I sit, probably it was inadvertent or it was accidental, but sometimes, in many times that we have handled matters of legislative formulation where big industry is involved, we usually find ourselves being isolated, which is quite unfortunate. Yes.
Okay, all right. You know, Dr. You're from the Harm Reduction Society of Kenya. And looking at this bill, do you think it focuses more on the demand and supply aspect as opposed to harm reduction strategies?
Yes. Let me start by saying that if you get it wrong from the beginning, it will always be wrong. When World Health Organization came up with the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, it clearly defined what tobacco control is, which is a range of supply, demand, and harm reduction strategies, as you've rightfully put. And all these aspects are aimed at protecting the people from the harms of tobacco. And when Kenya enacted the Tobacco Control Act, which was actually a direct lift from the Framework Convention of WHO, the definition of tobacco control was omitted. And that is an issue as Harm Reduction Society that we have been trying to raise, that we need to define tobacco control as defined by WHO's Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, so that now on the drawing board we ask, what are these harm reduction strategies that WHO had envisioned from the word go, and how best can we use all available evidence pertaining to harm reduction, which principally has two pillars, harm minimization and scientific evidence. And that is what we have been trying to say as a society, that we need to go back and redefine tobacco control as clearly defined by WHO and ask ourselves, what are these harm reduction strategies, which we have been saying that quite a number of them have been omitted. There is a lot of focus, as you rightfully put, on the demand and supply, but we are doing very little to assist tobacco smokers quit. And even all the measures that have been put in place, we are seeing an increase in tobacco use. And to put into perspective, the tobacco initiation age in this country, as per NACADA, is 6 years. So that tells you that there is something going on. And 80% of tobacco users are in low and middle income countries. And Kenya is one of them. And the question is, why is this happening despite all these measures? And we feel that the component of harm reduction has been omitted.
Indeed. Mr. Mwaura, you know, I came across an article you had published in one of local dailies talking about the legal missteps that could undermine this bill. And one of the things that you have mentioned is lack of public participation, especially when it comes to key legal issues that may undermine the bill. What are these issues? And also, regarding the aspect of presenting your views as LSK, do you plan on presenting them?
Let me start by responding to the last question.
Yes.
Of course we do. Once the Senate hears us out, and we will be writing to the Speaker on the same. He is also our member of the Law Society. We hope that his ear will be open to us. The main issues that I was raising in the legal framework around the amendment to the Tobacco Control Act is, as a key constitutional facet,
yes,
I believe that public participation was not met in the committee stage. It is not a question as to ticking a box on, as I have earlier on alluded to, by saying that we did the call and we received a few stakeholders from importers, civil society, and of course the organizations such as where Daktari heads.
Yes.
It is primarily on those who will be affected generally by the amendment. And so since pertinent issues such as retail owners and other tobacco and nicotine business players were not consulted, including, as I have alluded, the Law Society of Kenya.
Yes.
Then there becomes a constitutional challenge in that law-making process. Now, instead of going to the end and challenging the whole law, we are asking the Senate to reconsider, to take back the bill for reconsideration in the committee so that they can actually do good where they went wrong. I think that is even what Daktari was alluding to. From the onset, I want it to be as clear as possible that we actually are supporting this kind of regulatory framework.
Yes.
There are many usages to tobacco, or rather tobacco can be used in so many ways, including some that are even medicinal. But it should not primarily be focused on knee-jerking on technology and aspects of alternative to tobacco usage such as smoking. So if you look at the law-making process, there was a significant lapse in adhering to the constitutional facet on public participation. And even though both houses usually run away and say Standing Order 148 allows within the lapse of 30 days that it can go to second reading without this, it becomes constitutionally offensive because it cannot pass that test if you just say that our rules, our internal legislative house rules allow us to overlook this particular facet. That requirement is so important because under our national hierarchy of laws, the Constitution is extremely higher than any other law. And so if the Constitution expects that the law-making process will adhere to certain facets, for instance, primarily what we are saying, public participation, it must not only be seen as being done, it has to be done. And when you're making the call for public participation at the committee stage, they ought to have involved a larger group of people who are affected or who will be affected by the amendments. There are certain issues that have come up even after the bill was reintroduced in the House on the October sessional paper of the Senate. New issues arose from the mover of the motion, which were not even considered in the committee stage. And so you see, we keep on running after a moving target. You need to expect law-making process has to be intentional. It has to be predictable. You cannot say today that we are dealing with rain and then tomorrow you say we are dealing with sun. We have to finish the aspect on what we discussed in the committee stage. So many laws have been struck down by the courts because of this particular issue, and that is the issue that we are trying to tell the Senate. Please don't go this direction so that we don't lose this very good baby. Yes.
Indeed. Daktari, you also presented, your organization also presented views regarding this bill to the Senate regarding this bill. And what are some of the recommendations that you have that you think will make the bill better than it looks as at now?
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the recommendations was the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill needs to define tobacco control as defined in WHO's Framework Convention of Tobacco Control. Number two, we must recognize, or rather we did present a view that we need to recognize the role of tobacco harm reduction and its pillars of harm minimization and scientific evidence. Number three, we did put it very well that we must look at the tobacco users and see how best can we assist them quit and at the same time protect our children and youth from these new products and the population. And of course, we did provide or rather recommend regulation, because we have done our own studies and seen that some of the products that are in the market have lethal doses of nicotine. And we did say that we need to regulate these products, and most importantly, bring in the aspect of harm reduction, because that is key to making sure that we reduce our smoking rates and protect our population.
Indeed. You're talking about the aspect of regulating tobacco and nicotine use. That is the topic we are dealing with right here on Good Morning Kenya. We're going to take a very short break, and we shall continue with the conversation in just a short while.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street.
Critical issues are going to be discussed.
From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Machinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream, all for free. Studio Machinani, Radani Talent.
Tunazungumzia katika mada tarbiyatul abinai, malezi ya watoto katika malezi ya Kiislamu salim. Na wewe ni mchungu, utaulizwa na Allah yaumul qiyama, uliwalea watoto katika malezi gani? Uliwalea na simu, uliwalea maziwa lala, ama ulimlea kumjua Mungu na Mtume Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam?
Na pia tupatiane watoto wetu majina mazuri. Mtoto mpe jina zuri ambalo litakuwa ni kiashiria cha tabia yake nzuri.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. We're looking at the merits and demerits of the tobacco regulation amendment bill that is before the Senate. And Daktari, as we are talking off here, and here Mr. Maura has asked a very pertinent question. How do we compare in terms of smoking? How do the numbers look? How do we compare to other countries, especially when it comes to underage smoking?
Yes, the smoking prevalence in Kenya is about 1 in 10 adult males are smoking, about 10 to 11%. And that translates to about 2.5 million.
Yes.
And the statistics we have is that slightly under 1 million youth are smoking.
Wow.
Our NACADA statistics are very clear that our tobacco initiation age, actually smoking, is 6 years.
6 years.
6 years, which was a very shocking statistics.
It's alarming.
And that tells you that we are having young people get into tobacco as we move along. And we have tried to look at what is the cause. And we realize that some of the causes originate at the family level, whereby the parents smoke at home in the presence of children. They send their children tobacco to go and buy. Some of them, it was shocking that they request their young children to light the cigarette in the kitchen or somewhere and bring it over. Then, of course, the effects of the leftovers, the leftover sticks. Children will always want to experiment. And also, most importantly, we realize that cigarettes are being sold in single sticks, which is against the law. So that implementation aspect of the Tobacco Control Act is still missing.
It's still missing. Still on you, how do you think other countries are approaching these issues, especially when it comes to the new nicotine products? Are they banning or encouraging them?
Yes, banning historically has never worked. If you look at history, when moonshine was banned in the U.S. During the times of Al Capone, the American gangster, the industry flourished. The black market flourished. And until you have proper regulation that involves all the people on board, that you will be able to succeed. We saw in South Africa during COVID, they banned tobacco sales. And what we saw was illegal tobacco and cigarettes business in South Africa flourished. Cigarettes were getting all the way to South Africa from Kenya through the black market, until the government realized that banning does not work. But most importantly also, we need to embrace science, because we have been saying as a society that you cannot equate nicotine to tobacco. Nicotine is not equal to tobacco. And WHO is very clear that nicotine does not cause cancer. And it is on that premise that we have nicotine replacement therapies approved by WHO to assist smokers to quit. These are nicotine patches, nicotine gums, nicotine inhalers, and they have been approved by our Pharmacy and Poisons Board and Ministry of Health as smoking cessation aids for those who need to quit smoking. But we are saying science is going further and saying that we need to embrace safer alternatives. And that's a concept that we did present to the Senate, that we must bring in the concept of safer alternatives. Because studies all over the place, especially in UK and other places, have shown that these safer alternatives are 95% safer, without doubt, than tobacco. Tobacco has more than 7,000 carcinogenic substances. That's a known fact. These safer alternatives will not give you that kind of load. And at the same time, as a society, we are saying we need to continue with the research. We must embrace science for us to be able to make good decisions that will assist our people.
So the aspect of the scientific aspect ought to have been included when this bill was being drafted.
Yes, and that was also one of our proposals. We need to embrace science. Yes.
There was a survey that was conducted by a Campaign for Safer Alternatives, and a majority of Kenyans from the survey believe that the tightening these restrictions on nicotine products will drive, will backfire, and maybe the consumers now will resort to getting these products from black market. Is that the case?
Absolutely. Let me give you an example of what happened during the COVID restriction period around 2020 and 2021.
Yes.
If you are in the industry of what I call sin products, this is alcohol-regulated products, tobacco regulated products, nicotine regulated products, and any other product that is seen to be a luxury item. During the upsurge of COVID restrictions, the usage and the consumption of those products went high, including sugar products. And this is why post-COVID, it is reported that there was a spike in diabetic, hypertensive conditions among middle-aged Kenyans and even across the world. What I'm trying to get at is the more you restrict a particular commodity in the market, market forces usually drive an upsurge in that product's embrace with the public. So the best way to actually improve sectoral industry sales is by placing these restrictions. Now, in fact, I am very happy that Daktari has given us a model-out view of an empirical approach towards science, that we are doing well as compared to other countries in terms of adult tobacco and nicotine usage. He says we are about at 10 to 11. He has alluded off the cuff that there are other countries that are at 50%, which is really, really high. If you ask me, it means that for every one citizen you meet, there is a possibility that they smoke at 0.5%, because 50% is like half of the population. If you look at every other industry where the government has placed restrictions, take a look at alcohol, and you see, I like even the way Daktari is saying, you have to make the distinction around tobacco and nicotine. They are not one and the same. You have to make a distinction between alcohol, regulated alcohol, unregulated alcohol, illicit alcohol. You see, there are different facets, and you can't place the term drugs with these commodities because that's a different regime altogether. If this is not addressed in the correct way that it's supposed to be addressed, it then means that as a key control pillar, the knee-jerk reaction will mean that younger Kenyans will be not only exposed but interested in these restrictions and thus interested in these products. Now, we don't know whether those products will be what we are talking about, regulated products, what is within the industry's permissible limits, or are alternatives that are coming in through the back door, such as a black market, and it is big. I need, in fact, I would have wanted Daktari to comment about this, whether the industry in itself is bigger than the black market industry, which is unregulated. It is not regulated. So you may try to do something which is very good in an industry which is self-sustaining, and forget that that industry only covers about 30 to 40% of what we have locally. So yes, there is a need to address the impending challenge that will come with illicit trade and counterfeit trade, whereas we intend to make, or rather there is an intent to make a very good law that will address these advancements in technology.
So seemingly, as the bill as is will worsen the situation.
If the opinion and the commentary towards public participation are not taken into account, the Senate may be intentional in doing a good thing, but it will achieve a different result altogether, which is the fear that you're raising. Yes.
Daktari, you know, some argue that some of these nicotine products are safer compared to the traditional cigarettes that we know. And we also have others who have very strong sentiments against the same. So from your perspective as a doctor, what can you say about that? Do we say that some of these, the new now nicotine products that we are talking about, are safer compared to whatever we know as traditional cigarettes?
Yeah, before answering that, let me answer to the aspect of illicit trade for tobacco products. In 2020, Kenya ratified the protocol to eliminate illicit trade on tobacco products. As we speak now, about 50% of tobacco products in Kenya are illegal. They're in the black market. unregulated products. So it tells you that we still have a long way to go in as far as regulation is concerned. And that's our biggest fear. That's why we are finding products with very high lethal doses of nicotine that are outside the WHO standards for nicotine regulation. Coming back to your question, the key word is regulated safer alternatives. Regulated safer alternatives have been proven beyond doubt that they are safer. A lot of research has been done. They are safer than our traditional tobacco. And the scientific evidence is out there. And even as we speak right now, the United Kingdom adopted a policy whereby they are targeting their smokers in a campaign called Swap to Stop. And this is the UK government. And what they are essentially doing is telling the smokers, please enroll into a smoking cessation service near you. Then you swap your cigarettes for an electronic cigarette. And then we follow you up as a clinic and assist you quit your tobacco. Let me put into perspective.
Yes.
Tobacco is the only product that, if used as intended, will kill you. It is the only product that, if used as intended, will kill you. 50% of smokers will die out of tobacco-related illnesses. And tobacco is one of the biggest contributors of non-communicable diseases, and it is one of the easiest menace that we can be able to control by bringing in control measures and making sure that our people quit tobacco. And it is only through intentional, pragmatic, scientific practices that we can be able to do that. The Swap to Stop campaign in UK is doing very well. In Japan, electronic cigarettes are sold as prescription only. And we have very good measures in Japan as to how they control the electronic cigarettes. For example, some of the electronic cigarettes, you cannot ignite that electronic cigarette until you put in your fingerprint. They have biometrics. And that is very important because it protects children in case you leave your electronic cigarette on the table. A child will not be able to light it up. And those are some of the new innovations that we are saying. And there is no doubt that these safer alternatives, through a concept called risk continuum, are very much safer, without doubt, than our traditional tobacco.
Indeed. And it has, the bill has received pushback from even by owners and other small-scale traders. But then again, there's a question of balancing societal realities and constitutional rights. How do we achieve that?
This is not a moral question, if you'll ask me. It's not a moral question per se, because these are products that are regulated, meaning that they are legal products. And so I don't know why we are getting it wrong from the onset that we are dealing with a death sentence here. You have a higher likelihood to have chronic illness out of lifestyle choices such as the consumption of processed sugars than having lifestyle challenges guaranteed on tobacco as well as nicotine usage. I'm not being a peddler of sectoral industry here, but I'm saying you have a higher likelihood to die from a car accident than a complication in terms of a lifestyle illness out of these products. What I'm trying to say is it's not doom and gloom if we do it in the right way. From a standpoint of retail owners, there is that legitimate expectation that business will remain predictable for a long while, and any disruption in the market, if you remember in 2007 with the secluded usage of tobacco, we saw you couldn't smoke outrightly in a public service vehicle. intentionally, the bill also introduces certain new aspects, such as what is in the NACADA policy, that you cannot sell, in a retail fashion. You cannot sell in a moving automobile. You cannot sell within 100 meters. Now, you remember NACADA policy is 300 meters. Yeah. This one says you cannot sell 100 meters in an area where any person under the age of 18, commonly resides. The reality of our lives is that even our city planning did not envisage this. We have shops right next to a school. We have bars right next to institutions where younger people visit. For instance, malls. In a mall, it is definite that you will find these products, not only in the restriction that they are put in a corner or somewhere where younger people cannot access, and the intention that you have to prove that you are of majority age. I'm even happy probably that the NACADA policy was going to address the issue about 21 years. It increases it from 18 to 21 years. It's not possible under our own zoning structures, and it will not be practical. It will not be practical. That means that anywhere 100 meters, you cannot find these products. It means automatically that, for instance, in Nairobi, then you will have to buy these products, say, along the road that takes you to the airport, because then I'm not seeing any, institution or any residence where younger people may be found. So it is these practical challenges that we intend to address within the public participation forum that we are insisting on, because there will be, the law will have that provision, but it will not be enforced. There is no need to anchor any law that you do not intend to enforce or to see its fruition. And that is the communication that we want to make to the Senate. Yes.
From your perspective, how can public participation be improved to ensure that health legislation is more inclusive and transparent, from your perspective?
Yeah, from my perspective, public participation needs to be all-inclusive. And what I mean is that we need to get views from as many sectors and as many facets of the society to be able to gather all these views and put them into consideration and discuss, have an engagement and a consensus, as Wakili has said, so that it makes it even easier, so that once the law is passed, we don't have challenges in enforcement, because enforcement has been a very weak link in as far as enforcing the Tobacco Control Act is concerned.
Wakili, looking at it from an economic perspective, should the government provide some economic cushion to, say, traders who are affected by the bill? Should it pass as is?
In developed countries, that will be an option for the government to cushion those who will be affected by the bill. But we know for sure that the disruption in the industry will not have any backup from government on those who have a legitimate expectation to make commercial ends or who have invested, even at a retail sense. For instance, at an importer's level, we talk about big money, containers full of these products being imported. But from a retail perspective, the end chain retailer will suffer, and they are the majority, will suffer irreparable harm because government will not compensate them. It thus means that if the regulation comes, not only will their product, which they have already invested in, be at a peril, but even personally, it carries penal consequences, meaning that if you attempt to circumvent the law as it is, it carries hefty penal consequences, including hefty fines and prison terms. In fact, some of the proposals carry both. They say a penalty as well as a term in prison. So for the retailers, if no one was going to speak for them, they are doomed If they do, they're damned if they don't. Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask this question to both of you. What do you think should be the way forward for this bill?
Yes, let me say that as harm reduction society, we are very clear that we need to strike a balance between legislation and human health, because human health is precious, and we need to do as much as we can to protect our population, and also assist the consumers of tobacco from these harmful effects, and see how best can they be assisted to quit. So from our perspective as a society, we are saying that we need a more public participatory approach. We need to consider science. We need to bring in the concept of harm reduction into the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill, and clearly define what are these strategies, and not just define but also implement. Implement, for example, even the recommended WHO concepts of smoking cessation are not yet fully implemented. And we are telling the ministry and we are telling the government we need to consider our smokers as people who need help. We need smoking cessation services across all our counties, recognized, funded, provision of WHO recommended products. As we consider more science into safer alternatives, we must start from there.
Indeed. Wakili, what is the way out for this bill?
I have to agree with what Dr. is saying. Returning the bill to the Health Committee for reconsideration of the committee's report will be important, because public participation will take place there. But also key focus on sectoral player interactions to address issues that may have been left out. We have the common market protocol in the East African region. We may see an increase in products from other countries which are less competitive or restricted within an illicit fashion. And this means that even as a country, we will not be benefiting from the regulatory impetus of taxation on those products. But key will be the need to make that emphasis that without public participation, the end product of this really, really good bill would be inevitably challenged successfully in court. And then we'll have lost a period from 2024, when it was introduced at first in the Senate, to now, rather than agreeing to take it back through a small polishing process where it will find its legitimacy. There are very many overlaps in functions now between what the CS for Health can do in the proposed bill and what is already being done by, say, other institutions like KRA and the Kenya Bureau of Standards under the Standards Act, the KRA under the Excise Duty Act. They have those functions already in place. Taking them back to the CS in the proposal by the bill will then see an overlap in these functions, and thus will be an administrative nightmare that will not be able to be addressed once practically rolled out. So all in all, just take the bill back to the Committee on Health and open it up again for public participation, so that it sails through in the intended fashion that the preamble of the bill intended it to achieve.
Indeed. Gentlemen, your time is very much appreciated. That is Dr. Michael Kariuki, who is the Sec-Gen of Harm Reduction Society of Kenya, and Wakili Mwaura Kabata, who is the Vice Chair of Law Society of Kenya, speaking to us about regulating tobacco and nicotine products. The proposals within the Tobacco Control Bill of 2024. This is where we end this conversation. My name is Mike Migwe, but I want to take you to KICC, where Ray Manyara is on standby, and the COMESA Summit is happening. To remember that today is the third day of that summit. Ray, if you can hear me, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Mike Migwe. That is very well said. This is day 3. Now let's just start off with a recap of what was happening on day 2 that was dubbed the Business Forum yesterday here at the 24th COMESA Summit that is happening here in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, to start off that particular 24th COMESA Summit, Head of State Government Summit in Nairobi is making quite the decisive shift in Africa's trade history, moving away from paper-based into digital-powered systems. Under the theme, leveraging digitalization to deepen regional value chains for sustainable and inclusive growth, the region leaders are exploring how technology can ease trade processes, eliminate inefficiencies, and turn connectivity into higher earnings for member states. Yesterday, the chief guest was none other than Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki, who reiterated that Kenya, once it takes up its position as chair of COMESA, is going to be pushing for more digitalization when it comes to matters of trade, an aspect that is going to increase efficiency as well as curb fraud. Some of the technology and innovations that have been adopted by various COMESA states, including Zambia and Malawi, include the e-certificates of origin that have made trade quite easy. Also, we're going to be looking at what Kenya is going to be saying or pushing for as chair of COMESA when it comes to her prowess in money and fintech innovation, as well as digital governance. So intra-COMESA trade currently lags at about 17% of the bloc's total commerce. That has been blamed on lack held back by border bureaucracy, non-tariff barriers, and paper-based procedures. If we go digital, that's what the bloc says. If it does go digital, this will be eliminated, and thus movement of goods and persons is going to be seamless and more efficient. That's just a recap of day 2. That was a business forum that was held yesterday. So later on at around 8:30, I will be hosting the Principal Secretary in charge of MSME Development, Madam Susan Mangeni, to just take us through how we can globalize the MSME sector, leveraging on digital innovation. Currently, where we are, in the next 1 hour or so, we expect the 20th ministerial meeting to take place here. It's going to be closed door. None other than the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, is going to be taking lead in this. Matters to be discussed this morning are matters peace and security. The member states are around 21, and among them we're already seeing representatives from Libya, Sudan, as well as Somalia and Uganda. So we'll be keeping tabs on that, and maybe the outcomes of this particular conversation are some that are going to shape what is going to be presented to the heads of state come tomorrow. I'm Regina Manyara, and I hand it back to you, Vivian Degwa, for the rest of the programming. Remember, at exactly 8:30, we'll be back here at KICC to have that candid one-on-one exclusive conversation with none other than PS Susan Mangeni on matters globalization of MSME sectors to create job opportunities. Now back to you, Broadcasting House.
All right, and there we have it. That is Regina Manyara, who is at the KICC for the continuing COMESA Forum that is on its day 3, and tomorrow will be the last day. And as you've heard it from her, we'll be going back to her after this conversation that I am about to have, so that we can get to know more of how things are happening at the forum. Now, right about now, allow me to introduce you to a different conversation. And right now, I am joined by Engineer Shama Kiteme, who is the president of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. And our conversation this morning is on matters engineering, and we are looking at ways on shaping solutions for Kenya's infrastructure and the industrial future in general. And what better way to have this conversation other than have the president of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya with us right here in studio. So welcome. Engineer Sharma. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's get into the conversation for this morning, whereby we're looking at ways in shaping the solutions for Kenya's infrastructure and in the industrial future. Just to have a blanket, view on what role the engineers have in all of this. What would you say is the role of engineers in this?
Very important. Thank you very much for the question, V. Engineers are the center of virtually everything when you talk about infrastructure.
Yeah.
When you talk about roads, when you talk about water and sanitation, when you talk about aviation sector, when you talk about the blue economy, when you talk about infrastructure, generally engineers are at the center of this.
Yeah.
They design, they plan, they actually conceive, they plan, they design, they implement, they maintain, and when necessary, they bring it down. And therefore, engineers are basically actually trained to spearhead this kind of infrastructure in all sectors. And our engineers are all over the place. Our membership of 13,000, they are all over the place involved in this kind of engagement. But more importantly, we do know the work of infrastructure. And every time we provide enabling infrastructure, we also contribute positively towards industrialization now.
Yes.
No economy anywhere in the world that has not been transformed significantly by serious investment in infrastructure, in industrialization.
Yeah.
Now, doing industries creates more opportunities because every country that needs to be serious in terms of economic transformation, we must build industries, we must invest in production, we must stop exporting raw materials. When you talk about agriculture, we must not only produce, but we must do agro-processing, because when you do that, then you add value, or you do what we call value addition in the sense that then you are able to export finished products and not raw material. And this cuts across, even in mining, you don't want just to be selling raw materials. And we've seen this in Africa. We want to be a base for extraction of raw materials and raw minerals, but the value addition where we do the processing is where the money is, and we must target that. And that is the role of engineering. Engineers in spearheading infrastructure development, but also crucially industrialization.
Yeah, so clearly engineers are truly the backbone of industrialization, if we put it that way. Now, IAK led a peaceful march back in August of this year, and it was the employment for 10,000 engineers, right? And you also got the opportunity to present a petition to government. Tell me a bit about that. What did the petition call for?
Thank you very much, V, for highlighting this. It is true, on 27th August this year, His Excellency the President set the day to be Katiba Day. And engineers decided that the best way to celebrate this, to celebrate freedoms, rights, and the constitutional provision that allow us to, picket and present petitions to public authorities. We celebrated that day by having a peaceful march from our offices in Kindaruma Road and went all the way to Nyayo House. We petitioned the country's leadership, and particularly His Excellency the President, to create 10,000 job opportunities for engineers. And we presented a very strong case. This case was the fact that we have looked around and we have seen that in this country there's a tendency to prefer foreign firms to give them opportunities, making Kenyan engineers spectators in their own country as infrastructure is being implemented. And when we looked around, we did our math right, and we realized that if you go to the road sector alone and make sure that every resident engineer is responsible for one project, as opposed to the current situation where we have a resident engineer responsible for 11 projects. We're actually going to create 1,500 good jobs for engineers, Kenyan engineers. We looked at the housing sector, and the affordable housing program is really taken shape. And we, prior to the start of the program, we had agreed with the State Department of Housing and Urban Development that every consortia that is going to be brought on board, they will be allocated at least 3 projects. Someone mischievously in the State Department of Housing and Urban Development went ahead to allocate a single consortium as many as 8 projects. And we are saying, if you allocate each consortium just about 3 projects, you're going to create more opportunities for engineers, and you're going to create not less than 4,000 good jobs for Kenyan engineers. We went into the energy sector, and we appreciated His Excellency the President for cancelling the Adani deals. And he said, look, if you want to install power lines, pylons, and pulling power cables, this is something that can be done by Kenyan engineers. And if you give Kenyan engineers opportunities to do this work, you're going to create 2,000 good jobs for Kenyan engineers. We went to the agriculture sector, aviation sector. We know we need to expand JKIA. And we need to build 2 additional mega big airports in this country. Because we know Saudi Arabia is constructing an aerotropolis with 6 runways. This country needs to expand JKIA. And he said, if you give these jobs to Kenyan engineers, you're going to create at least 500 jobs. In agriculture sector, in blue economy, you know, if you give Kenyan engineers opportunity to implement the dams, etc., and irrigation opportunities that we need to invest in so that we can assure this country food security, you're going to create 1,000 good jobs for Kenyan engineers. And so we said, look, Your Excellency, we have done our math, we have looked at all the sectors, and we know you can create 10,000 good jobs. Now, in the register of engineers in this country, we have over 27,000 engineers. Sadly, 50% of those are unemployed. And we said, when you create these 10,000 jobs opportunities for Kenyan engineers, and we know it is possible because we have numbers and we have done our math, then you enable the space for industrialization, you build industries, you're going to create the additional 3,500 jobs for engineers. This country has enough work for engineers because we are literally a construction site from Mandera to Nyamira, from Lamu to Lokichar. We are a construction site. But then there is this bad practice where the state agencies are preferring foreign firms to give them work as opposed to Kenyan firms, which is against the law. Because the law in Public Procurement Disposal Act states categorically, and the procurement regulations, that every public tenders, you should prefer local firms. And local firms are qualified by law to be those owned by Kenyans, 55%, 51% stake, or citizen firms. Now, in instances where we don't have the local capacity and you give to foreign firms, the law requires that at least 75% of those employed in those firms, they must be Kenyans. And 20% of senior management in those firms must be Kenyans. So the law is very categorical. The law goes further and says that Public Procurement Regulatory Authority should ensure compliance with these provisions of the law by checking, getting the data, collecting, and filing a report with Parliament every 6 months. So that if we comply with the law as provided, we are going to create opportunities for Kenyan engineers. We will not have a Kenyan engineer who is unemployed. So our march was to present facts and figures. And we are very grateful, and I want to thank the Executive Office of the President, because the head of public service took very serious our petition, and he wrote a letter to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and told him the issues that we raised are serious. They need to be looked at urgently. And we are saying, as Institution of Engineers of Kenya, we are available for the conversation to realize this, because we are Kenyans, we are patriotic, we are very willing to be part of the development of the infrastructure of this country. But the current situation whereby Kenyan engineers are spectators on infrastructure being done in this country is not sustainable. It is not good for this country.
Yeah, and speaking about that, you know, you have categorically put it that you did the math. You as an institution have done the math, you have the numbers, and you are showing us that it is possible for 10,000 engineers to get jobs. What I'm getting for you is that we do not have a shortage of engineers in Kenya, because sometimes it looks like maybe there's a shortage of engineers in Kenya. That's why we are having foreign firms coming in to take the lead. So you're putting it clearly that we do not have a shortage of engineers in Kenya. And, you know, maybe just the fact that, you know, we are having more projects being spearheaded by foreign firms. Maybe why is this the case? And you're saying that the policies are already there. So is it that they are not being implemented, and what can be done to ensure that these things are being implemented so that our Kenyan engineers can also get that opportunity to take the lead, because they are well trained, they should take the lead?
Thank you very much, Fee. That's a very good question. I'll tell you why. This country does not lack engineering professionals. It does not. We have said we have an unemployment rate among engineers of over 50%. The situation we have currently is whereby, especially in those interventions that are foreign funded, there are agreements and covenants that are done that then lock out Kenyan engineers and local citizens. And this then encourages the entire market then to prefer foreign expertise. Situations like we have in the sugar belt and sugar sector, in the very many sugar farms we have, especially in the Western Kenya, we do have technologists, technicians and artisans who are foreigners. And we have done our math, over 1,000 of them, doing work that Kenyans can do. We have interventions, and I'll talk just nearby here, Talanta Stadium, where we have foreign farms. We have plumbers, electricians who are imported from outside the country. Now, this country has electricians, it has plumbers, it has machine operators. Why do we deliberately craft covenants and instruments that exclude Kenyans in the work that they are capable of doing? So we're saying we don't lack the workforce. We don't lack the skill sets. We have resources here. But somehow, decisions by decision makers favors non-Kenyans to be able to be involved in this project. And we say this is not sustainable for two reasons. Number one, it is not right to make Kenyans spectators when in the infrastructure being done in their country, when they have the capacity. Number two, this infrastructure once done, it needs to be maintained. It needs, regular repairs and stuff like that. When you do not have local know-how and knowledge and understanding of the infrastructure, who is going to do that? Will we perennially depend on foreign expertise? We're saying this is not sustainable. And we know it is a couple of decisions that needs to be made, and we do things right. And we correct this anomaly, because then we are setting ourselves to a situation whereby we will perennially be dependent on foreign expertise, and no country that has developed without investing in its own people, in developing its own local capacity. And we are saying, look, we are not hostile to foreign expertise and all that working in our countries, because we work in other countries. But look, the law is clear. And even when we do not have the local capacity, the law stipulates that when you engage the foreign experts and firms, they must train the local and Kenyan engineers and workforce. They must pass on skills through mentorship, through technologies transfer and skills transfer. So the law is very clear. We just need enforcement. And I can tell you for sure, we have enough skilled, trained, experienced, knowledgeable engineers, technologists, technicians and artisans to be able to run the infrastructure development in this country.
Are there maybe specific reforms that the government, you feel the government should commit to?
Critically, we have said and been very loud that every time we are working around these finance agreements, for infrastructure and all that, and especially when we have funding from development agencies, please involve us as engineers. Let us give our technical input. It is not fair to have Treasury and other agencies to run these efforts. There is no inclusion of technical people who then understand the technical aspects and make the right decisions that safeguard the interests of this country. We want to believe that there are good intentions out there. We want to believe that the infrastructure development is necessary. What we need is to make sure that we look internally and capitalize on the local resources that we have. And this is possible. We have fantastic laws. We just need implementation and need to be a little bit more patriotic. And I'll give you an illustration, for example, of affordable housing. We actually got into this conversation with the State Department of Housing and Urban Development and said that you need to involve architects, quantity surveyors, and engineers, Kenyan engineers, in these projects. And you need to compensate them well and fairly. Now, there's a situation where the current compensation is not attainable, and I want to thank His Excellency the President that we reminded him, particularly on 15th July this year, that engineers, architects, and quantity surveyors involved in this project need to be compensated to statutory levels. So the statutes are there, but someone is mischievously hell-bent or not complying with them.
You know, when we talk about Kenyan engineers being sidelined and remaining sidelined for a while now, what repercussions does this, have? Even when we look at, the students or the younger people who are looking to become engineers in the future, the ones who are already in our universities and get to hear of such conversations that we are having right now, is there a repercussion to it?
One, there's a huge demoralization that happened. We are very deliberate in mentoring university students and showing them that there is hope. But when you create infrastructure and exclude Kenyans from implementation of this infrastructure, then you are demoralizing them. Two, you are depriving this country human resources for the years to come. And we are saying, for you to develop the local capacity, know-how, and the knowledge, engineers in this country needs to be involved in this infrastructure. And they understand when and where you need to be involved in servicing, in maintenance, and stuff like that. Three, you actually make this country not develop its own technical standards and, engineering codes that we need to develop. And we're saying we cannot be over-reliant on foreign standards and stuff like that. We need to be able to develop our own standards. And we have Standards Acts. We should be able to develop our own standards. We cannot run away from the need to benchmark with what is happening across the globe, because the country has become, the globe has become a village. However, we say we must be patriotic, we must be deliberate in developing our own standards, indigenous ways of doing our stuff, because then we are able to develop as a country, and we are able to bequeath successive generations sufficient knowledge, backup, and know-how to be able to run the infrastructure that we come up with.
Yeah. Now there is push towards sustainable industrialization and resilient infrastructure, and this is also something that is under the 2030 Vision 2030, and it's also in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda in Kenya. We're only 5 years away from Vision from 2030, which is the Vision 2030. How far are we how far are we in terms of us getting to this point where, the push for industrialization and resilient infrastructure, that is sustainable industrialization?
I think sustainable industrialization is a brilliant word to use in this conversation, because not only do we need to develop industries, we need to make sure that we are sustainable in everything that we touch. Why? Because our responsibility to successive generation is such that we should not compromise our world today so that they do not have a world to be proud of. Now, we do know we have a Vision 2030, a very brilliant idea that the government in around 2002 came up with, Kibaki government and all that. This country needs long-term planning. In the next 37 or 38 years, we'll be 100 years as a country post-independence. The question is, where will we be? Will we be a limping country that has wasted 100 years of independence and not transformed ourselves? We know a country like China has pulled millions and millions of its citizens from poverty in a few 30 years because they have had long-term planning. What will this country be in the next 37, 38 years? What will we be proud of as a country, saying we are now 100 years? Sustainable industrialization is necessary. Sadly, we had about 2015, the contribution of GDP was close to 10%, the role of industrialization contribution to GDP. However, as we speak today, it has dipped to 7.6%. That tells you the goal we had for achieving about 20% by 2030, the contribution of industrialization to our GDP, may not be realized. Now, that does not tell you that it is impossible. What it tells you is that we need to look a little more into this space and see what we can do in terms of incentivizing, whether we are talking about moving into e-mobility, electric vehicles and all that, which we are saying engineers are capable, ready, and trained, experienced to be able to move into this space. I was in Uganda the other day, and they are manufacturing electrical vehicles in Jinja. And the country, through the Office of the President, has established a ministry they are calling Science, Technology, Innovation. And they are very deliberate about growing the local manufacturing because we're saying we must do value addition. And so we must be deliberate all the way. The policymakers must be deliberate on investing in sustainable industrialization. We must be deliberate that all the minerals that we are extracting, and we have this potential to make sure the contribution of mining in this country, for example, is about 10% of GDP or more. Right now, it is in infinite small, almost not recognizable. So we must be deliberate about sustainable industrialization and making sure that we look long-term on what is going to transform this country. Because when we invest in industries, we're creating more opportunities for engineers, mechatronic engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. And I can tell you, for sure, every country that has developed, whether it is China, whether it is Singapore, whether it is South Korea, they have been deliberate in building local manufacturing industries. Today, as we speak, the United States has adopted very protectionist policies as a government because they're saying we need to stop exporting job opportunities of our citizens. They are putting in tariffs and whatnot to encourage local manufacturing and making sure that what is produced then can be exported. So what we are saying generally is that we must be deliberate to invest in sustainable industrialization for this country to be able to pull itself from poverty and pull millions of its citizens from poverty and to be a fully developing and developed country.
All right, as we almost come to a conclusion of this conversation, we are aware that the COMESA Summit is currently happening in the country, and one of the things that they are looking into is ways to enhance the intra-COMESA trade. Trying to just put it in this place where of the conversation we are having, maybe how can IEK foster stronger regional collaborations, within East Africa and within the member states of COMESA as well on matters, cross-border infrastructure.
Thank you, V. Just yesterday, I was involved in a public discourse involving engineer colleagues from South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda. We had colleagues from, of course, Kenya, and we were having a conversation. Last 2 weeks, we were in Uganda in what we call Africa Engineering Week. So engineers in Africa have come together under a platform we call Federation of African Engineering Organizations. And we are sharing knowledge. We are exchanging ideas. Yesterday, I was chatting with colleagues in Zambia, advocating for the same issues we are doing here in Kenya. They are presenting their petition to the National Assembly on the same issue, saying give 50% of maintenance opportunities of our infrastructure to Zambian engineers. So we are saying we have forged a collaboration effort, our friends in Tanzania. And I have been privileged to carry out consultancy assignments in Djibouti, Ethiopia, Burundi. So we have built this common platform of African engineers we share opportunities, and COMESA is a fantastic opportunity. We know, and every year I'm in Zambia, every time I'm in Ghana, I'm in Sierra Leone, we can see infrastructure happening. But the common denominator we have is that this infrastructure is being carried by foreign firms. We are saying, give African engineers opportunities to develop their continent. Whether it's from Cape or from Cairo to Cape Town, whether it is from Niamey to Mombasa, we need to give opportunities to African engineers, because the unemployment rate for African engineers is big. And COMESA is a great platform. We have mutual recognition agreements between East African countries, where a Kenyan can go and work in Tanzania, can go to work in Rwanda, and that's why I'm saying I have consulted in East African countries. So through COMESA, we need to make sure that we build this, family of engineers in developing cross-border infrastructure, and we have agreements in power, we have agreements in railways and stuff like that. We have trans-African and continental infrastructure agreements on airports, railways and roads and stuff like that. So we need to continue encouraging inter-African trade through African continental free trade area, and COMESA is a very key contributor to this debate and conversation, and we should be very proud we are hosting this conversation right here in Nairobi this week.
All right. My final question to you, the certification of engineers in Kenya, does it align with the global engineering standards?
Well, a good question. In June, we were in Mexico City, Yucatan, and Kenya acceded to what we call Washington Accord. And this effort has been spearheaded by Engineers Board of Kenya, where I sit as a board member. And so as we speak today, engineers trained in this country, their skills can be recognized anywhere in the world. Because Washington Accord brings heavy industrialized nations like US, Russia, South Korea, Australia, UK, and so we should be very proud that this country, engineers trained in this country, their skills and expertise, they are recognized all over the world. And therefore, we have a process whereby you comply with international standards by submitting yourself to the registration process that we have locally through Engineers Board of Kenya. You are trained as an engineer, and when you are trained for 5 years, you are expected to have acquired what you call graduate attributes when you graduate. Then you go through a 3-year training minimum by statutes requirement, where you acquire what you call initial professional development. Then you submit your training and experience report and a project that you have done as an engineer. Then you're examined by peers through Engineers Board of Kenya. And when you pass professional interview examination, then you get registered as a professional engineer. The beauty of our recognition internationally through Washington Accord is that now we can have international mobility of engineers. That if I'm registered in Kenya, I can go to work in Russia, I can go to work in the US, I can go to work in the UK, and my credentials are internationally recognized. So we are not working as a silo, we are able to work across the globe, because I can tell you I've been involved in bringing together engineers in the US and Canada. And we have engineers from trained in this country working in the best platforms all over the world. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, they're working for GE. We have engineers working in Germany, Siemens, the UK, Spain, all over the place. We have Kenyan engineers because they are very qualified, they're knowledgeable, they're experienced, and we have very bright engineers trained in this country.
All right. The final one, I know I mentioned the other one as the final one. Now this is the actual final one. What is the wider vision of IEK on matters Kenya's infrastructure?
Very good. Now, IEK, our role, we look at welfare of engineers and we work towards advocacy. And we also equip our engineers through capacity building. We have developed enough instruments and standards of practice. Just the other day, we worked with the National Construction Authority and Council of Governors, COG, to develop site inspection manual. We have been involved in the development of the building code, in the development of the, adoption of structural Eurocodes. So as Institution of Engineers of Kenya, we are playing an active role in making sure that the infrastructure developed in this country meets local and international standards. We are training our engineers and equipping them, and we are proactively engaging with policymakers and telling them we need to develop infrastructure that meets standard. We need to look at road safety. We need to make sure that buildings and all the infrastructure that we develop is safe, it does not collapse. And that's why we are developing, we developed the site inspection handbook recently, and we have been involved in training and equipping our members with capacity building initiatives that expose them to the best global standards. And we bring very experienced trainers to be able to equip our engineers and pass on skills, so that as we are involved in the development of our infrastructure, we have world-class infrastructure developed in this country.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Thank you for shedding light on all matters engineering and local engineering. And the thing that has really come out is the fact that we need our engineers to take center stage in the projects taking place in the country. That was Engineer Shama Kiteme, who is the president of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. And this is where we end this conversation. Thank you so very much for staying tuned. Remember that we are on location at KICC. We have Regina Manyara, who is on a standby over there, and she will be taking us through what is taking center stage today at the COMESA Forum. We know that the first day they were talking about matters horticulture, agriculture, and the likes. And the day two, which was yesterday, what took center stage was the business forum, and it was matters business. And today, as Regina had mentioned earlier, they will be looking at matters peace and security. So I don't know if Regina is ready. We head over to Regina right now at KICC.
Piga mswaki kuenda kwa Big Mama. Josh alipiga simu akasema nikwambie walifika Nairobi vizuri.
Hata nataka nifanye mpango nimnunulie kuku nitume mtu ambaye anaenda Nairobi.
Elijah, wewe
amestabilize na tunangoja tu lab result.
Wewe bado hata hamjui.
Ingekuwa rahisi hivyo hata ukimwi ungekuwa na tiba. Livesh. Hadi hizi vitu fanyika, especially kama msema hajajichunga vizuri. Unajichoma wewe hivi? Ndio. Hapana.
Daktari amesemaje?
Hii ni damu ya kwenu.
Ati?
Usiseme hivyo. Tamtafutia nini mke wangu? Hakuna kitu ambayo sasa.
Wananiita gundu wakita. Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we have to do it twice.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tunaangazia kilimo kutumia mbinu za asili. Kisha jinsi ya kuwafuga ng'ombe, kondoo pamoja na kuku.
Hawa wanyama wako na challenges mingi pia. Kukua na wao inabidi ujipange. Kwanza majani, unafaa kuwa na majani ya kutosha, wanakula vizuri. Una make sure ni huko mahali wanalala ni kusafi. Alafu pia dawa ya minyoo unaipea. Kwa wakati after 1 month naipea dawa.
Tazama Mkulima kila Jumamosi saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1 kwa mseto kamili wa kilimo.
as we mentioned earlier, not too long, we're going to be having a candid conversation with none other than Principal Secretary in charge of MSME development, that is Susan Mangeni, to just take us through the conversation on globalization of the MSME sector with a keen focus on digital operations. So just a quick recap, just as you mentioned, is that this is day 3, and what is currently happening now between this, it's around 8, let's say, from 9 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m. Two things are going to be happening right here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, as Nairobi is hosting the 24th COMESA Summit and Heads of State meeting here. Being the 2025, some of the things that we're going to be looking at, or rather the summit is looking at, is how to transform trade within the regional bloc, moving away from paper-based to the digital platform. Yesterday in day 2, we had chief guest, that is none other than Professor Kithure Kindiki, who emphasized that once Kenya takes up the chairmanship position from today, one of the things that it has prioritized is to push for more adoption and integration of technology and innovation on matters trade. This means that movement of goods as well as persons across the regional bloc, made up of 21 states, is going to be seamless and effective. Some of the areas that have already been proven and tested includes the adoption of the electronic country of origin certification in countries of Zambia and Malawi, as well as Eswatini. They have proven that this, following this particular adoption in that particular process, it is seamless and cost is effective. We also had yesterday from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers decrying of protectionist policies across member states. One of the value chains that was mentioned by the Vice President of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, that is Mr. Hitesh. He said the dairy as well as edible oil value chains are yet to be resolved, or rather issues around those particular value chains are still to be resolved, and it has taken quite a long time, and that those that have the powers that be that needs to address that to ensure that the value chain goes on seamlessly. Another issue that was brought forth by the chief guest, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki, was the fact that integration of technology would be one of the key strategies that member states would be applying to stem fraud and corruption, especially at the borders, and in terms of also devaluing the products that are in circulation. Manufacturers, or rather private sector, also decried of products at on the shelf, or rather the end products, saying that instead of competing as member states, there should be an approach to complement each other so that trade can be enhanced. Statistics from the COMESA Secretariat indicate that intra-COMESA states only 70% of the total trade within the bloc. What this in essence means is that COMESA states, the 21 member states, are trading less within themselves, but trading more with outside factors, including the EU as well as China. That is something that needs to be corrected as far as yesterday's conversation, the business forum, is concerned. So the theme this year is leveraging digitization to deepen regional value chains for sustainable and inclusive growth. And as such, the region's leaders are exploring how technology can be used to ease trade processes, eliminate inefficiencies, and turn connectivity into higher earnings for member states. The outcomes of all the conversations that we've had, day 1, we're talking about the EU and matters horticulture, given that Kenya prides itself as an agriculture-driven economy, but the numbers do not speak of that, especially when it comes to matters, just looking at the phytosanitary requirements of these horticultural products, especially accessing the EU market. That was a challenge that was brought up in day 1 when stakeholders were just looking at how to streamline and harmonize policies to ensure local farmers within this particular bloc could tap into the opportunities within the EU in as far as matters of horticultural products are concerned. There's also conversation on how the bloc can align its policies with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. This came into force in 2024, and Africa in itself is yet to fully
realize the potential of this particular agreement that was made to just ensure Africa trades within itself, having such a market and not utilizing it as it should. So alignment in terms of harmonization and policies to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement also came up in the course of these particular discussions. That was day one. Day two was business to business as well as business to government and business to corporates, speaking in unison that it's the high time that we moved from conversation, theory, policy to actionable steps to drive trade across the regional bloc. Issues that have come up also, given today is day three. Kenya is going to be taking up her position as chair of the COMESA bloc, and it's going to be pushing on digital adoption across matters trade to just also help MSMEs. And in not too long, we're going to be having that candid conversation with the principal secretary in charge of MSME development, that is Susan Mangeni. She was also part of the team and moderating on how to empower small medium enterprises, especially in the agri-tech value chain. Some of the questions that we would have her answer is, what is the biggest shift this summit has represented for MSMEs within COMESA? And also another critical area that we're going to be looking at in not too long is what import does digital trade. When you talk digital trade, how then are we incorporating small and medium-sized enterprises into this particular value chain? Looking at Kenya's perspective, reports have been out there that one of the main challenges that faced by MSMEs and SMEs is market access. And from the speakers in this particular summit is that the adoption of digital systems is going to erase borders because, as you know, technology is driven, or rather technology-driven markets. That's where we find ourselves and as far as the industrial revolution is concerned. So with digital adoption of digital smart systems, it means the borders do not exist. Also with the digital systems, we're talking about cashless payments. Kenya has been at the fore when it comes to matters of fintech with globally renowned mobile money transfer that has transcended the globe, and so Kenya is going to be leading from the front in that particular perspective. So from an MSME point of view, would want to know, in not too long, Kenya is championing to ensure MSMEs, especially women and youth-led businesses, are not left behind in this transformation. Looking at this fragmentation of the Kenyan population when it comes to matters business, women and youth are not a significant part in the formal businesses, so to speak, largely informal, and we are yet to have them into the fold. That's another aspect. Then access to capital. Under the Department of Trade and as well as MSME development, we had the Hustler Fund that rolled out when this particular regime took over. And it was geared to ensure that there's more money to individuals, especially businesses. However, looking at the performance of the Hustler Fund, there have been critics who have been saying that it is not sustainable going forward because of the 30% non-repayment. So what does the future hold for Kenya's MSMEs? And more so, looking at this particular scope, what does the future look like for MSMEs within the regional bloc? That's just but a quick summary of what day one, day two, and day three is all about. And keenly focusing on day three, we are currently having a ministerial meeting that is closed door. Yes, that is currently closed door. And the person who is actually the chief guest in this particular closed-door ministerial meeting is Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Some of the key areas that are going to be discussed in this particular closed door, Victor as well as Mike and Vivian back in Broadcasting House, is matters peace and security. We have 21 member states in the regional bloc, and we have already confirmed that we have representatives from Sudan, Somalia, Uganda, and Libya who are already in this particular ministerial meeting, and also elders, have also been invited in this ministerial meeting. We say Africa, we are in Africa, and Africa is our business, and then you can see the role that community leaders are playing when it comes to matters peace and security. The outcomes of this particular ministerial meeting, being the 20th, is going to be made public towards the end of the day at around 5 p.m. So Vivian and Mike, I don't know if you have questions. Maybe you can bring you up to speed on expectations. Over to you, Viv and Mike.
Thank you so much, Regina, for putting us up to speed on what is to be expected today. As we've heard from her, the ministerial meeting is currently ongoing, and it is a closed one that is being chaired or led by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. And my expectations from that particular conversation that they are having, or meeting that they are having, is just to get to understand what exactly they were able to come up with in terms of matters peace, matters security, which are very, very crucial, not just in this country, but across the borders. So we would love to know what are some of the things that have been suggested, what are the strategies that are being put in place, and how to go about ensuring that we get to implement the strategies that will be put in place. So we're really looking forward to getting to know the outcome of the meeting that is currently ongoing right now at KICC. Mike, I don't know what
and even
you make of that.
If matters of peace and security are to be considered within member states, you're looking at areas like Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, areas of conflict. How do you think this body, the COMESA, needs to address this? Because this also affects trade within the bloc. So I think it's something that, Ray, that maybe we'd be looking forward to hearing what they will say regarding areas like South Sudan, Somalia, Sudan currently, which is in turmoil. Maybe that's one of the things that they ought to address to enhance trade within these areas. Yeah.
Indeed, those are the likely outcomes, Mike. That is very well put. So the situation in Sudan, also the situation between borders, Uganda and Kenya and such, that is likely to come up. We're also going to be looking at the situation in Somalia. So those are some of the outcomes we anticipate that are going to take center stage in this closed-door ministerial meeting. And on the periphery, PS in charge of MSME development, Madam Susan Mangeni, is already within this particular precinct, or rather the set. So we're going to be having that candid and exclusive interview in regard to how do we globalize, MSME sector, and also what do we expect for SMEs going forward. So we take it back to you as we proceed with the rest of this particular programming.
Indeed. All right. I think that is one of the interesting things about these issues, or the bodies that we have within Africa. We are talking about COMESA, the aspect of also the African Free Continental Trade Area, because all of them are trying to get that common market. So how can African countries capitalize on that? And I think this summit should come up with something that fits every nation and also addresses the interest of every nation.
Yeah, that is very, very important. And I love the fact that the theme for this year is on matters digitization, which is very, very crucial. And at this point in time, when technology has taken center stage across the globe, it is very important to look at ways in which we can leverage, digital systems to ensure that we are making countries or across the member countries of COMESA, we are making things easier through, digital systems, to ensuring that we have digital smart systems that can be able to enable us to trade freely across borders, making us borderless truly. And there's something that Regina had mentioned earlier on matters, things to do with money transfer, which is something that has really come in handy on matters, just ensuring that trade is going on and it is happening smoothly, and it is really coming in handy. So if we can be able to look at more ways in which we can digitize things and make them, adopt those digital systems that can be able to allow us to trade freely across the member states, of COMESA.
And actually, Kenya stands an advantageous position because we are taking up the chairmanship of COMESA. Yeah, this is where we end the show.
And right now, we want to leave you with a documentary on Senate Machinani. We know that we are having the 4th Senate Machinani happening in Bungoma, and we have a special documentary just for you, so enjoy that. Goodbye.
Piga mswaki kuenda kwa Big Mama. Josh alipiga simu akasema nikwambie walifika Nairobi vizuri.
Hata nataka nifanye mpango nimnunulie kuku nitume mtu ambaye anaenda Nairobi.
Elijah, wewe
amestabilize na tunangoja shule la result.
Wewe bado hata hamjui.
Ingekuwa rahisi hivyo hata ukimwi ungekuwa na tiba. Livesh. Hando hizi vitu fanyika, especially kama msichana hajachunga vizuri. Unajichoma kama hivi? Ndio. Hapana.
Daktari amesemaje?
Hii ni damu ya kwenu.
Ati?
Usiseme hivyo. Tamtafutia nini mke wangu? Hakuna kitu ambayo
sasa.
Wananitagundu wakita.
Unafaa kumsamea. Unajua sikitaka kwa mama. Ilikuwa mazika obwe, masetani hata sikunajua. Nyamaza. Wewe kazi yako ni nini hapa? Kazi yangu inakuwa kwa kazi ya Estadi. Wacha na excuse. Simu kwa wili. Na mbona hamsaidiani Shiro? Kama ni unafanya huko? Yaani Githaka umenisituaga. Karibu hata nisimame roho. Kitu mnapanga mwache immediately.
Why?
Mimi nimesema.
In September 2018, the Senate of Kenya made the landmark decision to hold its sittings in counties across the nation. The move was designed to deepen devolution, strengthen intergovernmental relations, and give citizens first-hand access to parliamentary proceedings. Since then, the Senate has sat in Uasin Gishu County, Kitui County, and Turkana County. Now, in 2025, the journey continues in Busia County. For years, the Senate of Kenya has been a pillar of devolution, the guardian of counties, the custodian of resources, and the voice of the people. But what happens when Parliament itself steps out of the capital city and sits right among the people? This time, the journey takes the Senate to Busia County, a borderland rich in culture, enterprise and resilience. For 1 week, the county will not just host Kenya's lawmakers, it will also host the nation's conversations on devolution, governance and the future of our counties.
Katiba ya Kenya hususan ile ya mwaka 2010 ilileta utaratibu mpya na mwamko mpya jinsi asasi za serikali zinafanya kazi. Utakuta kwamba kuna shindikizo ya kwamba kazi zote ambazo serikali inafanya lazima ifanye kwa uwazi na kuhakikisha kwamba mwananchi yuko katika utendakazi ule. Na ndio maana kama bunge la Senate tulionelea vyema kwamba katika kazi zetu kama bunge la Senate ni muhimu kwamba kuwe na uwazi na kufungua ile milango ambayo zamani ilikuwa imefungwa, kwamba wananchi hawajui bunge inafanya kazi vipi, utaratibu wa bunge. Kwa hivyo tulikuja na utaratibu huu wa kupeleka bunge la Senate kule mashinani ili wananchi wenyewe, kama unavyojua bunge la wananchi, wabunge senators wako hapa kwa minajili ya wananchi. Kwa hivyo hili bunge la wananchi na ni muhimu tulipeleke mashinani. Na ndio maana katika utaratibu wa seneti mashinani ni kufungua ile milango ama zile pazia ambazo zilikuwa zimewekwa baina ya bunge la Senate na wananchi. Tukitoa zile pazia, bila shaka wananchi wataona utaratibu ama vile bunge la Senate linafanya kazi. Kwa hivyo ile shinikizo hasa ni kuleta uwazi katika utendakazi wa bunge la Senate. Na ndio maana tunaenda katika mashinani kila mwaka kujumuisha wananchi, kuonyesha wananchi vile bunge nafanya kazi, maana hili ni bunge lao.
No, when we go to Busia, all the committees of the house will be sitting, the normal sittings. So in these sittings, there will be direct interaction with wananchi. For example, if the committee wants to visit an ECD, Committee on Education, wants to visit a school, ECD classroom or school, they'll be able to go there and interact with the wananchi. If the agricultural visits that they will do, the Committee on Agriculture will go down to where the people are and interact with them. They can have even public barazas or public hearings and listen to the problems that the farmers are facing. If it is health, the Committee of Health will be able also to interact with the residents of Busia, so that also they can be able to understand the issues that we have relating to health in Busia. So this interaction, I think, is what we really need to strengthen, so that the people of Busia can be able to really feel the Senate. There are many issues maybe that have never been raised by their senator. Maybe they have that opportunity now to give the Senate directly those issues, so that now we can be able also to assist them. And also to check on whether devolution is working there. You know, like the Committee on Public Accounts, County Public Accounts Committee, County Public Investments Committee. Maybe there have been so many audit queries, and they have an opportunity now to visit those facilities, to visit the projects that maybe the Auditor General has raised concerns.
Devolution is not an abstract idea. It's about people, communities and service delivery. Senate Machinani symbolizes a parliament that's accessible, transparent and rooted in the lives of citizens.
Basically, Senate Machinani is an opportunity for citizens to engage with the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, air their concerns and give their perspective of how the Senate of the Republic of Kenya does its work and what they feel we need to improve on. The most important aspect of Senate Machinani is the interaction with the citizens in their home. Many times citizens come here to Parliament. But you understand Parliament is a closely guarded institution. But this one, we are taking Parliament to the people, and you get feedback directly. They'll get an opportunity to listen to us, watch our debates, see as we interact with ministers, and learn a thing or two about the procedures of the Senate. More importantly, many times we read reports from this sub-county hospital in Busia and the other. This time, we shall be visiting those facilities and institutions and comparing what is written on paper and what is the actual reality. Therefore, I think it will be a very important session with the people of Busia County.
Senate Machinani is about proximity, about ensuring oversight is not just conducted in Nairobi boardrooms, but witnessed firsthand by citizens. It's about demonstrating accountability where it matters most.
Senate Machinani ni kwa sababu tunataka wale watu wa nyumbani kwa vijijini huko, kama vile tunavyotangulia kusema kwamba tutaenda Busia ili watu wa Busia waone Senate Machinani imewasili huko. Ni kwamba tutaondoa bunge letu lote la Senate pamoja na kila mtu na vitambo vyote ambavyo huwa tunatumia kuenda katika anga ili kuona ya kwamba watu katika Kenya wameona Senate inafanya kazi gani. Kwa hiyo kila kitu kilicho hapa mpaka wafanyikazi wote tutaenda mashinani ili watu wa huko Busia waweze kuona ya kwamba tumewasili huko, na tutafanya vikao vyetu huko kama bunge la Senate. Sisi tuko na wajibu, ndio tuko ndani ya katiba, tuko na wajibu na uwezo wa kuenda kila mahali katika kaunti zote 47 katika Kenya kwa wakati mmoja, kwa mwaka mmoja. Kwa hiyo ni jambo la kujivunia kwamba Senate inaweza kwenda mpaka mashinani na kukaa na watu katika vijijini na tukaongea nao na wao wakaongea na sisi ili wakatuweza kutuelewa vizuri na kazi ya senator ikajulikana ni kazi gani. Tunataka watu wa Busia waweze kusema yale maneno yao ambayo yanahusu ya ndani na kuweza kuona ya kwamba wametueleza kinaga ubaga wazi wazi bila kuficha. Sio hao peke yao, hata viongozi wao wale madiwani nataka wajihusishe zaidi, kwa sababu hichi ndio kitengo peke yake ambacho kinahusikana directly na mambo ya mashinani, zile serikali za mashinani. Kwa hiyo wale ndugu zetu ma MCA tunataka washirikiane sana, waweze kuchukua shida za wale wananchi na kuzileta ndani ya bunge ili tuweze kujadiliana. Uwasia wangu ambao nataka kuacha kwa watu wa Busia, wakati tukiondoka waone kwamba wamepata faida ya maamuzi yetu, ya hatua tutakazochukua kulingana na shida ambazo ziko ndani ya Busia, na kuamini ya kwamba Senate ndio bunge ambalo linawasikiza directly. Kwa hiyo ni wakati wao mzuri sasa wachukue, walete zile shida zao na waeleze hizo shida zao ziko wapi, ziko namna gani, zitatafuliwa namna gani. Tutapata jawabu wakati Senate ikienda katika mashinani huko Busia.
Senate kazi yake ni kusaidia katika mambo ya ukatuzi. Ningependa kusema ya kwamba ningependa kukaribisha wanabusia waweze kufika pale, waweze kujadiliana na bunge la Seneti katika masuala mengi kuhusiana na mambo ya ukatuzi. Kama kuna swala ambao imewatatiza kwa muda, itakuwa ni wakati wa kipekee waweze kufika pale na waweze kujadiliana nasi na tuweze pia kutafuta suluhisho ya hiyo tatizo. Pia ni wakati mzuri wa Kenya kujifunza mambo mengi, hasa wenye watahudhuria kujifunza kazi ya Senate ambayo muda kwa muda inafanyika kule Nairobi, lakini ni nafasi ya kipekee kupatikana kule kijijini.
The Senate's mandate is to protect and to defend devolution and to protect the needs of county governments. And we do so largely as a national part of the national parliament. Most of the time we work in Nairobi, we work through committees within Nairobi. And admittedly, very many people yet to understand how the devolved system of governance in Kenya works. And we believe as we go to Busia, the same will happen, and we will get to interact better, and people will get to understand better. We also get to understand in depth the county in which we are going. We will have all the different committees of Senate will in one way or another interact on the issues of the county of Busia this time round, and that in itself is part of oversight and assists in getting a better understanding between the county government, the county assemblies and the Senate on how best we think we should move forward in protecting and ensuring that devolution works for the people.
Democracy thrives when leaders meet the people on equal ground. It is a chance to hear grievances unfiltered, to engage youth, women and communities directly, and to prove that the Senate belongs to all Kenyans.
You know, Busia is a border point to Uganda. So we have two border points in Maraba and in Busia. So one of the issues that we really want to understand is how the county is able to handle the cross-border trade. Yeah, you know, trade and customs management is being monitored at the border. So we'll be able to monitor and to go and see how Busia County is able to handle that. I understand from their senator that there is a long queue. Lorries crossing to Uganda take a lot of time in Busia. And like these trucks from Uganda, they are able to pass through the borders very easy. But our trucks, the trucks from Mombasa to Uganda, they take so many hours at the border point. So we really be interested to know what the challenges they have so that we can have that cross-border business so easy, so that locals and also the people in the whole East Africa community can benefit. Number two is agriculture and fisheries. Busia also is good at fisheries. You know, they're along the Lake Victoria. So you will be able to know the agricultural practices that they have, and also the fisheries industry, how they are able, that industry is able to benefit. Actually, most of the economic activity for Busia County is fishing. So we'll be able to know the challenges they have and what this devolution can be able to help them. Also, maybe we'll be able to interact with the women and the youth, which is a critical constituency, to understand also the programs that they have for women, for youth, for people with disabilities in those special categories. So there is a lot to be able to interact with the Busia.
Behind the scenes, the clerk of the Senate and his team work tirelessly, from securing venues and ensuring live broadcast coverage to coordinating with counties and safeguarding procedure. Senate Machinani is as much a logistical feat as it is a democratic one.
Some of the logistical challenges, of course, we have to ensure that we have the facilities that we require. The facilities that we have here at the headquarters, we have to replicate them in whatever venue that we are going to, that we have chosen for Senate Machinani. So there is the preparation that goes to that. We traditionally use the chambers and the facilities of the county assembly of the county that is hosting Senate Machinani. The county assembly is tailored. Their infrastructure and all their wherewithal is tailored for the county assembly, not for the national legislature. So we have to tailor that and adapt it to our use. Then there's the logistics of getting all our staffers who are required to support the sitting to get to the venue and to be there during that week, to enable the public to also access, to secure all our members and all our staff, to have them accommodated. So there are some logistical, I don't want to call them challenges, but there are logistical implications, because we cannot call them challenges. Going to our people, we cannot perceive it as a challenge, there are implications.
For the area senator, this is history in the making. It's not just about hosting parliament, it's about amplifying Busia's voice in national discourse, showcasing its potential and bring government closer to the wananchi.
It also enhances citizen engagement because right now we are busy preparing a program that would otherwise not happen. Like for Busia now, we are preparing areas that we think need to be visited, to be seen, to be met with the citizens. And when they do that, then citizens have an opportunity to interact with the senators, whom sometimes they only see on TV or read in the papers, or even don't see, I don't know. So they'll be having a chance to say, oh, this is so and so, this is so and so. And they'll engage, they'll raise their issues. And the Senate will also benefit by getting raw data, which it can use in its legislative and oversight agenda. So there's that. And as I've said, the issues will be local. The focus will be local issues. There will not be national issues as there, and therefore, legislation benefits from local issues, which is there. Then there is the question of the partnerships between the county assembly and the Senate. In terms of resourcing, the Senate is better resourced. And so when the Senate moves to the ground, it strengthens the partnership between the county assembly and the Senate, because we sit at the county assembly. And the county assembly members, assuming being members of the assembly, can sit within their own assembly. You see that there. So they will be able to learn how things are done here. Our secretariats are better endowed than those in the counties. They'll also engage and they'll see how people are working. They will also be able to identify what are the weaknesses. Like when they go to that county assembly and they want the Senate to sit there, they'll be able to see what does Busia lack. Because we want the proceedings to be exactly the way they're done at the Senate here. So our secretariat, which is already on the ground, is upgrading the county assembly of Busia to have the facilities that we have here. And after we do the Senate Machinani, they leave all that equipment behind. And that's so the county assembly will benefit from that. And there will be that partnership and strengthening partnership and capacity building. Now, the other thing is community outreach and immediate tangible benefits. Already, we have got groups in the Senate, like the women. They're already organizing health camps. They're organizing those things like many things will be done. Many campaigns will be done. We have got other groups also organizing to do that. So there will be also charitable work that's done on the side of the meetings. And then, of course, the immediate thing, and which now for Busia, I don't know if it will be the same, because of Busia, we have got some challenges whereby in Busia town and in Malaba town, people socialize. We'll find that the taxes in Uganda make the products cheaper. So many people cross over to have when they want to do some recreation and stuff, they cross over to Uganda. And they leave the Kenyan traders struggling. But one of the incentives, one of the benefits is that when the senators come, of course, there are people who are not living in their homes. They have to occupy the hotels, they spend, they have money. So we expect there will be a boost to the local economy where they will be staying. But I'm just praying that our senators will not cross over to Uganda, where things are cheaper. They'll be able to bite the bullet and say, okay, we have come to Busia, and we shall stay in Busia the way we stayed in Lodwar. And this is the first time that the Senate is going on to a border county, and especially the one whose assembly is hosted right on the international border. And also Busia is the gateway to East and Central Africa from Kenya. So, but there are very many issues, ranging from the fact that we don't benefit much from that as much as other areas which host similar facilities benefit. Like you can see the port of Mombasa, how it benefits the county. We have got a lot of challenges, like the trailer park that used to be there was taken over when they were booting up the one-stop border crossing, and I've never been able to construct another one, although Kenya had promised to do it. So you find that all those trailers, sometimes they park past Webuye towards Eldoret. There's a traffic jam. Sometimes they park into Ugunja, into Siaya. But all of them, none pays any parking fees because they say that in a traffic jam, they can't pay parking fees. If you just charge the 200 shillings each, Malaba on average hosts about 2,500 trucks a day. Busia clears about 1,500 trucks. So you'd find, look, if you do the maths, it would generate a lot of income for the local county government. So those are the kind of things we want the assembly to see and help us push to get this thing done.
From the capital to the counties, from policy to people, Senate Machinani is a testament to Kenya's democratic journey. It is a reminder that devolution is alive, dynamic, and ever-evolving. And as Busia hosts the Senate, the message is clear. Governance must always be of the people, for the people, and with the people.
I wish to see those guys wana interact na the normal citizens hapa, washare views zao, wasikize pia wananchi wanataka nini.
Wakae na watu wa revenue hapa na maaskari wa traffic tuweze kuangaliwa sana upande wa jam.
Maswala ambayo tunataka zitatuliwe ni kwa vile unajua sasa kama hasa sisi wa Kenya, Waganda ndio watu wanakuja sana sana, unapata Waganda pia wamekuja ndani. So tunakuwa vitu zingine zinaibiwa, wanasema ni sisi. Naomba kama hiyo siku tutakuwa na nafasi, hata kama tutaambiwa tuweze kuhudhuria, tuko radhi tutaenda.
Matarajio yangu kwamba Senate ikikuja, kitu ya kwanza nataka kuongelea ni security.
We are expecting the Senate ikija Busia ifanye oversight project zote ambazo zinafanyika katika Busia County.
Ningependa waongelee mambo ya corruption na waongelee pia mambo ya oversight, vile wanafanya oversight yao kwa county assembly.
Kama kuna mambo yenye wanaweza kutusaidia ni mabarabara tu na soko, vitu kama hizo, ndio sisi pia maboda tunaweza tukapata kazi.
Natarajia sana wakuja watusaidie maneno sekta ya barabara, waongeze barabara kwa sababu transport yetu hii pia unapata tumefinyana hapa.
Kaunti ya Busia kwa kaunti zote 47 counties, Busia ndiyo imebaki nyuma kimaendeleo sababu tuko na boda mbili, Malaba na hii ya Busia. Matrela zinapita, ushuru wanasanya kila mahali. Sababu ukiona pikipiki zikipita, gari zikipita, kila kitu kipita zinasanya ushuru.
Hii beach tangu hata maseneta wetu na wabunge wetu wakue, tunaona bado iko vile mnaiona tu hapa hivi. Alafu hapa hata sasa uvuvi unaendelea mpaka mchana. Kwa saa hii unaweza ona boti inagoa na samaki. Hii samaki usiku naweza kuhifadhi aje hii samaki ndiye niweze kuipeleka mbali niende niuze kwa bei nzuri.
Tuko insecure, hakuna security. Juu hapa tukijua hii ni maji ya Kenya, lakini Muganda halali, ikuwe usiku, ikuwe mchana. Wavuvi wetu wako at risk.
Welcome everyone, men, women, young people. Please come and discuss with us, come and join our activities so that you can understand better how we work as a Senate and contribute to strengthening devolution in Kenya.
Waende kuigagua miradi ambayo wanaona wanavaa kuiongelelea na maswali nyeti ambayo wangependa kuyauliza ili siku ambayo tutaanza mnamo tarehe 6 hadi tarehe 10 wawe pale waweze kuzungumza nazi na waweze kujua majibu ya yale mashida ambao wako nayo.
Busia tunakuja sisi kama senators na tunataka kuwaona nyinyi nyote pamoja na seneta wenu ukiwa Mtata na wale ma MCA. Tunataka mkuje huko na mulete makapu makubwa sana ya shida zenu na tutazitatua.
It's a celebration of our democracy. It's a celebration of our constitutional order. I would like them to come out to the committees sittings. I would like them to come out to the chambers and witness the proceedings. I would like them to engage with their leaders.
Come here, come all, so that the event can happen well.
To the people of Kenya, this is an interesting opportunity also for you, as you see the highlights of the things that will be happening in Busia, for you to appreciate and understand that the Senate works in the interest of our people of Kenya.
We are coming to Busia from the 6th to the 10th, so I request the Busia residents to wait for us with the pomp and the kara.
Langu tu ni kwa rai wakazi wa Busia kwamba wachukue nafasi hii kujitokeza kwa wingi ili waje waone vile bunge la Seneti linatetea mambo ambayo yanagusa maisha yao.
This is Senate Machinani, Parliament closer to you.
You are right on time for the Senate proceedings. Today, Wednesday morning, the Senate proceedings is streaming live. Iko tu sawa.